Another big objection for not having children is essentially the belief that by not having children, you are saving the planet. So, talk to us about that.
Well, there are a number of approaches that I've taken to critiquing this. I mean, there is the slightly separate point, which is the environment is so awful, I couldn't bring children into this world. And that's just totally wrong. The world you're bringing children into today is vastly better. Like in Britain, the infant mortality rate, the chance of dying in your first year now is probably, I don't know, like a seventh of what it was. Even when I was born, and that's probably a seventh of what it was when my grandparents were born. So children are much less likely to die. Globally, they're much more likely to eat better, to get better education. So it's crazy to say the world is too bad to bring children, and the world's getting better and better in so many ways. In terms of the not bringing a child into the world, there are a number of strands. So first of all, a child born today won't emit very much in Britain, say, because small babies live in their parents' house, drive with their parents, and so on. By the time a child born today is living independently in 20 or 25 years with their own emissions, really, given the shape of emissions, it's very likely that emissions will be extremely low per capita. And secondly, the way we'll get there is by having a young, inventive society. If our emissions now have fallen hugely in the UK, more than half per capita in the last 30 years or so, that's because of lots of clever technological advances, better boilers, better cars, more affordable renewables, all sorts of things. You only get that if you have a young, vibrant society. We can see in Japan, as it ages, its technological innovation goes down. So we need young people to come up with the ideas to get us more environmentally efficient. And then I think the third strand is if you are consuming labour, if you are expecting someone to be at the doctor's appointment, someone to drive the bus, someone to deliver petrol to the petrol station, someone to grow the food and put it in the supermarkets. In other words, we all consume labour. If you're consuming it, but you're not going to produce it, that means that you force mass immigration. And that means instead of having our own children, who in full time will be emitters, but the emissions will come down, we're immediately drafting people in from very low emissions countries to very high emissions countries. I mean, I think, if a Guatemalan goes to the States or a Syrian to Germany, their emissions go up tenfold, 50-fold. I mean, it's off the curve. So you think you're helping things by not having children, but actually you're just shifting people from low emissions to high emissions. Now, there may be good arguments. It's very nice for people to move from the Democratic Republic of Congo to France or from El Salvador to the United States. That's another issue. Nice for them, poses challenges for the societies. There's a whole very useful and important debate we need to have about immigration. But if you think by not having children, but by continuing to consume labour, you're actually helping the planet, you're deluding yourself. Unless you're prepared to go and live in a cave and eat herbs and grass and not consume the labour of others, you're not really helping the situation at all.
Yeah, and the invention side of it is, I think, the one that we completely underestimate. So in your book, you compared essentially what does innovation in the Japan looks like currently compared to the Western countries, and the gap is just huge. It feels to me that unless this is resolved one way or the other, this massive invention boom that we've seen in the last, let's call it 25 years, maybe 30 years, that's going to come to a halt.
I think we kind of take it for granted and we don't realise that it's based on having plenty of young people. And, universities will shut, departments will shut, people studying STEM will decline, and that will really have an effect on the speed of which we invent and discover. So I think we underestimate the demographic underpinnings of it. And at the same time, we underestimate what transitions and transformations it can give rise to when it works. And we can see those if we're looking at productivity of land to produce food, the fact that at 8 billion, we are fantastically better fed than when we were 1 billion. Well, why is that? Human innovation, brilliant ideas on growing and storing food, and actually the ability to reduce our footprint and at the same time increase our productivity. So we kind of look at today's technology and we assume that's the technology we'll have. Now, if you looked at the technology of 1800, and then you said by 2020, whenever it was, 22, I think we'll hit 8 billion. On that technology, we'd have had mass Malthusian starvation. We'd never have got there. So that's an ongoing process. We need to understand that can be ongoing, but it's only going to be ongoing if we have relatively young, vibrant populations, well educated. And a lot of the world we've already got to a kind of educational frontier. You can always improve education. We're already sending about half our kids to university. I'm not sure sending 70% of them is going to make that much difference. I think it's diminishing marginal returns in terms of more and more people, 90% of the population having PhDs. I honestly think we're kind of approaching peak education in terms of the percentage of society that really benefits. But so I don't think we can say, well, we'll have half the young people, but we'll send them all to university, assuming the intelligence kind of distribution is much the same. So you can't get around it by just getting everyone to get master's degrees and PhDs, and people who today don't. I don't think that would work. I think the way is to have enough young people that out of that larger pool comes the ideas and the inventiveness, and not think that just by educating more, the people we've got will suffice. I mean, that isn't eugenicist. It's just saying there's a normal distribution of intelligence.
If you enjoyed this clip and you would like to support the show, all you have to do is press subscribe. And to watch the full conversation, you can go right here. I'll see you there.